Hey guys, my name is Moon and welcome back for more Witch on the Holy Night. So last episode we started the honey adventure with Toko and Beowulf, and we also did some World of Ploys. So we will continue that and yeah, pretty much do the same thing today. Let's try and finish it up. Yes, this one? Yes, I'll load that one. In the parking lot of the apartment, Ritsuka Suze stepped out of a room on the first floor.
はーい、お久しぶり。こんなところでばったり出会うなんて奇遇ね、リツカ。嘘、トコちゃん？あなた帰ってきてたの？
Toko-chan.
ええ、ちょっと前にね、こっそり人目を忍ぶように窓から侵入するサンタクロースさながらに。
So she knew Ritsuka and she was fine showing herself? Okay.
あ、言うまでもなく目的はこの町をぶっ潰すこと。私の過去ともどもきれいさっぱり清算するため、この度準備万端でやってまいりました。なので邪魔になる教会の人間とか教会の人間とか気づかれる前にやっちゃうぞ。あらあら、それはご丁寧にどうも。トコちゃん、それ私のこと。教会の人間って今私しかいないんですけど。あら不思議、むしろラッキー。懐かしくて散歩していたらまさか標的の一人に出会うなんて、一つ手間が省けた感じ。関係ないの。私教会と関係ないから。だってここ1年真面目に仕事してないし。というか仮にも兄弟子を捕まえて本気で殺すとか言わないでほしいです。
The woman was tearfully flailing her arms at this point. She had nothing to worry about though. Beo could see even from where he was peering through the fence that Toko had no real intent to kill anyone. Oh yeah, Beowulf is actually following Toko, right? She had a terrible habit of messing with people for her own entertainment. This time was no different. Unfortunately, the pleasure she took in it only made the target of her jokes feel doubly worse.
それを言うなら姉弟子でしょ。
You're like sisters. Better than the relationship with her actual sister.
だってトコちゃん妹って感じしないんだもん。間違っても姉弟子なんて胸を張って言えません。そうよね。技量的にもとても先輩なんて言えるものじゃなかったし、リツカの特技なんて今じゃ深夜販売の商品以下だし、そろそろ食害考えたら？いいとこ紹介するよ。イタリアで見つけたもう廃業寸前のサーカス一だとかどう？そんな日給バイトはコリゴリです。せめて週休のところを紹介して。うわー、通販以下ってところは否定しないんだ。なぜ？トコちゃんの指摘は正しいわ。だって私何にもできない役立たずですから。魔術協会一のお荷物、ここに参上。
Maybe she was taken aback by Ritsuka's guileless smile, but Toko couldn't help but grin back at her. If one didn't know better, they would seem like good friends.
私への疑いは解けたと見たわ。それなら寄ってく？これから用事があったんだけど別に後回しでいいし。久しぶりだもの。お互い積もる話とか楽しそうじゃない？ほんと相変わらずゆるゆるね、リツカは。確かに気が変わったわ。その様子じゃ教会との関係なんてないようなものだし、あなたはあなたの心情を守っているようだし。そう、本気で青子の味方なんだ。もちろん アコちゃんはまだ半人前ですもの。つかず離れず、あくまで他人行儀に。アコちゃんが死ぬような目にあっても遠くから見守るわ。それは結構。青子もほんといい性格をした理解者に恵まれたもんだ。
Toko took a step back away from Ritsuka. She looked a bit regretful as she signaled that the conversation was over.
あれ？寄っていかないの？私、コーヒー入れるの上手くなったよ。ありがとう。けど遠慮しとく。こっちはまだ潜伏中だし、町攻略の準備もあるしね。ここで緊張感をなくすのはうまくないでしょ。あらまあ、真面目さ。でもそうよね。トコちゃんはそういう人でした。根を詰めすぎて目的より手段そのものに熱中しちゃうタイプ。ほんと、どんな準備かはわからないけど、トコちゃんに狙われる人たちは大変だ。別に普通でしょ。基本魔術戦やって、こっちが勝ったら刻印をもらうだけ。時代遅れの魔女じゃあるまいし、倒した相手に呪いとかかけないわよ、私。だからそこです。相手の命より収集を優先してるじゃない。その人たち、目玉だけになっても生きているなんてことにならなければいいけど。あなたは気を使っているつもりだろうけど、相手にとっては拷問だからね、それ。
Toko nodded to show her agreement. Her collection of crests would appear that way on the outside. Toko sought profit in combat. If a mage she defeated could provide her with profitable materials, she would not take their life. She would even save their life if she knew it would be to her advantage to do so. As a result, her workshop in London had a facility specifically built for the comfort of her magical supplies. It housed the mages who had either lost to her in battle or who had willingly agreed to contribute to her cause. Toko held many magecraft patents, which earned her up to £10,000 a month in royalties. However, the majority of this money went to the upkeep of that facility. The demands from the residents of the place for additional facilities and special privileges increased with every passing day. It was a reaching point where Toko needed to decide whether to incorporate or just let everyone go and be done with it.
でも、地下ってそういうものじゃないわよ。拷問なんて手間暇かかりすぎるし、娯楽を与える方が管理コストは低いんだってば。今はいい脚本揃ってるしね。適当な映画のプロットを拝借して、それを再現するだけで喜んでもらえるし。仮想であれ現実であれ、自分が主役になれる物語なんて最高じゃない？つかぬことをお伺いいたしますけど、上演ジャンルはどのようなバランスで？恋愛3、活劇3、サスペンス3、アニメ1？
That's a lot though. A lot of genres, I mean.
は？そりゃ基本ホラーでしょう。エンタメのすべてが詰まってるんだし。私、トコちゃんのそういうところ素で怖いわ。
Dude, but yeah, seriously though, horror films, you can get romance, you can get action, you can get suspense, and then yes, you can maybe get some cartoonish stuff as well, all in one.
というか、女の子なんだからもっとロマンを求めてほしいの。今回捕まえる候補に上がっている人間に言われると、さすがに考慮せざるを得ない。囚人を放り込む箱庭のバランスに気を使ってみればいいの？ホラー8ぐらい？恋愛9でお願いします。それがダメなら推理9でぜひ。
This was clearly a response from someone who knew she'd lose if she had to go up against Toko.
了解。そういう事態になったら善処する。はーい。そういう事態ってどんな事態？誰かの味方をするのはいいけど、私の敵に回った時かな。あと今日のことを口外した瞬間、足元からパクッといくから気をつけて。え？足元って影のこと？あれ、そもそもなんていうか、トコちゃん、私一歩も動けないんだけどごめんなさいリツカ。実は1週間かけてあなたの部屋に罠を仕掛けてたの。ドアの境界に影で作った使い魔を仕込ませたみたいな。しばらくはあなたの影に住み着いているから、私に不利な証言したら大変だぞ。私すでに大変だったのか。悪魔、人でなし、天才悪魔。トコちゃんはもう少し一般常識を学ぶべきです。もう道理で夜な夜な泥棒さんがピッキングしてると思った。
Ritsuka hadn't noticed the shadow familiar, but she had sensed Toko as she was setting up her trap late at night. Toko didn't think Ritsuka could speak about common sense, since she had ignored an apparent burglar trying to break into her home for a week.
その使い魔、年明けには解けるから安心なさい。じゃあねリツカ、縁があったらまた会いましょう。その時は自慢のコーヒーをご馳走してね。あと深夜販売の商品だってバカにできたもんじゃないわ。あのシンプルさ結構好きよ私。
And there we go. Toko winked at her old friend and left the apartment behind her. Hopefully we'll meet again. Toko realized those were empty words. Her plan would not spare her mortal body, be it a success or be it a failure. Toko Azaki would be erased from this world. Still, there was no reason not at least say something about meeting again. Perhaps Toko had more affection for Ritsuka than she realized. Even so, she left that friend behind in a state of paralysis. Toko had indeed returned home. That fact alone revealed much to Ritsuka. 2 years older than Toko, Ritsuka had been contracted 10 years prior to monitor Toko's grandfather, the mage who discovered the fifth magic. That made her both Toko and Aoko senior. And she knew the sisters rather well.
そりゃ口止めの一つもしないとね。トコちゃんを見て真っ先に警戒するのは私と。
One other person, another with more seniority than the Ozaki sisters in the truest sense. There was one other beautiful person who had taught Toko.
ま、そっちはそっちで根回ししてるかな。
What? Maybe her sister, right? The nun?
トコちゃんならそのあたり完璧だろうけど。
Yuika?
もうちょっと敵には非常になった方がいいわよね。トコちゃんは相手の人権を尊重しすぎっていうか、根本が甘いっていうか。殺すと決めた相手に顔を見せるとか、どうかと思うの、私。
Toko was a researcher more than she was a mage. Generally, she wasn't a fighter. She was cruel but not cold. Despite her capability for vicious, ruthless treatment of people, she also displayed a measure of compassion for others. Ritsuka sighed as if the problem were her own. Toko left the neighborhood and began heading towards the largest park in town. It was 3 in the afternoon on this early winter on the boulevard. If it were autumn, the street would be lined with people out for a walk to look at the colorful trees, but now Toko was alone. Though to be accurate, she wasn't quite alone. Can she not sense Beowulf though? That Beo's following her? Beo was walking along the grass more than 10 yards behind his employer when he noticed a change in her scent.
瞳子さん、こんな街中でメガネ外してる？
Toko's personality changed significantly depending on whether or not she was wearing her glasses. Beo wasn't sure which side was her true self, but he did know that she was much more serious and cruel without her glasses. It wasn't quite the level of split personality, more like a reordering of priorities. She mainly took off her glasses when she was about to fight someone. Doing so made her less human. It pushed all sense of compromise, concern, and sympathy out of her brain.
ってことは、さっきから近づいてくる匂いは瞳子さんの敵
So
な
maybe
んだけど。
maybe it's technically her, right? He's smelling her. Beo furrowed his brow as he hid behind a tree. He could certainly smell hostility and anticipation emanating from Toko. But at the same time, he couldn't help but scrunch his nose up at the strange scent that kept getting stronger.
こんにちは。なんとなしに散歩していただけなのですが、また出会えるとは奇遇ですね、瞳子さん。
So it's Father Eerie.
ああ、たまたま続いた偶然だ。世間話をする仲でもなし、挨拶を交わす程度に済ませよう。
Beo had no idea who was talking to Toko. His name was Eri Fumitsuka. He was a priest of the Ida Church. However, it was impossible for Beo to sense this. He had no personal hostility towards the clergy anyway. As far as Beo could tell, he was just a regular person and there was no chance that Toko could be at a disadvantage here. He would later learn a harsh lesson from someone who seemed similarly harmless, but that was a tale for another time.
そちらの状況はどうなんだ？神の家は働き者揃いだからな。利権を漁りに来る欲深は現れそうか？
いや、働き者というのは全力で肯定しますけど、欲が深いとかそんな人は少ないですよ、こちらは。彼らがやってくるときは大抵は競技のためですから、欲望より責務で動く人たちって怖くないですか？
無駄話はしないと言っただろう。結論を言え。お前の腰巾着は鐘を鳴らしそうか？
Is your follower going to sound the bell or not?
やれやれ、人のことは言えませんよ。瞳子さんだってワーカホリック寸前じゃないですか。もっとこう余裕のあるコミュニケーションを取りませんか？立場上いつ最後の仰せになるかわからないわけですし。
The last time? Why?
ふざけろ。いつも何もこれが最後だよ、エリ。
Toko curtly rejected the smiling priest's request for a chat. She was being blunt as she could.
だいたい次があるとしたら、その時は殺し合いだろう。お互い手の内は知っているしな。顔を合わせた瞬間、どちらかが死んでいる。会話なんぞしている暇があるか？
それは瞳子さんだけの思い込みですけどね。どうしてこう邪魔者は始末するという方向でしか物事を考えられないんでしょうか、あなたたちは。
Eri shrugged his shoulders in frustration. Toko kept her gaze fixed intently on his overcoat. No matter how many times he said he wanted to resolve this peacefully, she would bet her pride that he didn't mean it.
まったく、そういうところも成長して帰ってくるんですから、育つのは女性としての魅力だけに留めておいてほしいものです。ああ、そう睨まない。本題に入りますから。目下、教会への報告は私が一任されています。司祭への報告は、現在、 管理者は異端者と交戦中、中立の条約に基づき司祭代理権限で監督中。なお異端者の所属は不明、現在履歴を調査中といったところです。
この町に現れた魔術師は所属不明ということになっているんだな。
ええ、シスターユイカは私とは別所轄の方ですが、彼女は異端者の攻防はおろか、その姿さえつかめていません。彼女が単独で敵の正体を暴くまで教会から横槍が入ることはないんじゃないですかね。今まで通り土地を狙いに来た馬術師同士の小競り合いだと思っているんじゃないですか。
そうか。では取引成立だな。お前が私の帰国の剣を握りつぶしている間は、私も多少回り道をする。
よかった。東子さんは無差別な破壊工作はしませんが、とにかく最適な道筋を好みますから。勢いどこぞの工場とかオフィスビルとか秘密基地にしそうでしょ。私がこちらに赴任している間、流血事件が続くと困るというか、私の評価が落ちるようなことは何とも。
Toko had to resist the urge to object and ask what kind of person he thought she was. She didn't hate wastefulness, but she wasn't about to entirely abandon society and its norms just for the sake of doing things optimally. Besides, criminal activities were always a pain to clean up later and thus far more inefficient.
まあいいさ。お互いの利益が一致したんだからな。では、あとはことが済むまで生還を決め込んでおけ。
もうお帰りですか。名残惜しいですね。結局一度も今のあなたの素顔を見られなかった。
私は逆だ。そのカマキリ面もこれで見納めかと思うとせいせいする。
ああ、待ってください。お別れの前に一つ質問を。
Aerie spoke just as Toko was about to take a step back. He had effortlessly stopped her from leaving.
所感なのですが、東子さん、今大変息苦しくはありませんか。
まさか。私はかつてないほど充実しているよ。なぜそんなことを聞く、エイリ。
いえ、だって楽しそうではありますが、幸せそうではありませんので、あなた自身気づいてはいないようでしたから、知己として心配になったのです。
幸せの定義か。思い出したよ。お前の口癖だったな、それは。幸せの形は人それぞれだと。全くその通りだ。私の良しとする幸福が他人であるお前にわかるものか。つまらん心配はするな。
いや、そりゃ細かいところまではわかりませんけどね。特に女の人の幸福感なんて、それこそ危機快快ですから。ですがほら、幸福の形は2つに大別できます。東子さんの場合、それすら気づいていないようですから、大変見苦しいなと思いまして。
ほう。ご忠告痛み入る。腐っても兄弟子というわけか。
Honestly, I'm very curious about Father Aerie here. Like, I wish we knew more about him, like in the main story. But yeah, he's pretty mysterious.
いいぞ。聞いてやるから言ってみろ。
If it happened to be something worthless, she would kill him. If it erased all the progress she had made on her plans over the past month or even the past 2 years, she would kill him. Toko's hostility had clearly turned to murderous rage.
当たり前のことですよ。相対的なものと絶対的なもの、比べる相手がいるかいないかが幸福の違いです。自分が穏やかであれば幸福なのか、それともどんなに満ち足りていても人より劣っていては我慢できない人間なのか。幸福の定義なんて詰まるところはその2つですよ。私が言うまでもありませんが、多くの人間はただ人より少しだけ幸せでありたいのです。
The holy man smiled calmly, wrapped in his shadowy black clothing. Toko remembered clearly now. This was a man who actually didn't believe in the true concept of happiness.
ほら、そんな殺気は収めて、シスターユイカが飛んできます。トウコさんの幸福感は絶対的なもの。あなたは自分が確かであれば満ち足りるタイプの人だったんですけどね。他人が気になるなんて、そんな相対的な幸福感を持っているのは。
He stopped himself before he could say Aoko. The priest seemed to have spoken out of genuine concern for Toko, but his words had the opposite effect on her. Although he was reluctant to part on such ill terms, Eri knew it was best not to anger Toko any further.
言葉が過ぎました。お許しを、ハイマスター。それでは私はこれで、あなたたちにとっていい結果になることを祈っています。
さっさと消えろ、極つぶし。最後まで陰気臭い真似をしやがって。だいたいその服装どうなんだ。街中でマントなんて羽織って敬遠されないのか。
皆さんもう慣れてくださいましたから。それに、ほら、この格好だと獲物を刺していてもバレないでしょ。
Jesus. Is he carrying like, what do you call that again? Like small swords underneath that cloak? Small knives, or yeah, technically knives, I mean.
まあ、トウコさんには見抜かれてしまいましたが、相手があなたですからね。恥ずかしながら長物を3本ほどこっそり。
And then he ran away. Eri turned and walked back in the direction he came with a smile still on his face.
ふざけやがって。こっちは1本、それも担当ぐらいにしか見抜けなかった。そもそも3本ってなんだよ。魔術師でもないくせにどうやったら隠せるんだ。あのバカ、手品師にくら替えしたわけじゃあるまいな。
Toko muttered to herself as she thought back over the man who had stood before her just moments ago. She truly hated the fact that he had the upper hand on her, but she also felt a bit relieved. Was she actually scared? If she had actually noticed how heavily armed he was during that brief conversation, it would have been enough to instantly set up a fight. Toko wasn't sure which one of them would come out the victor if that had happened. I wonder though, right? Like, let's say Father Eri versus Bayo? That would be nice to see. Eri Fumitsuka had been that kind of man for as long as she had known him. He didn't need a reason or even an opponent to fight. Nor did he need any kind of connection or hatred. He was just a machine that simply needed an ignition. He was a murderer incarnate with no qualms about cutting someone down. Toko had only seen that side of him once. It was back when she was still a relatively happy disciple of magecraft. Toko had been standing quietly before her grandfather, crying. The instant her first tears fell, without warning, without hesitation, Eri cut down their master in an instant. What? What, he killed Toko and Aoko's grandfather?
なんで？どうしてあなたがあの人を切りつけたの？
いえ、 今なら切れると思いましたので。
Avery could not fathom how much this curt response would affect such a young Toko. He had not meant to say my opponent showed a moment of weakness and I knew I could win, so I took the opportunity. All he meant was, I felt capable of killing him, so I did. This man had become her grandfather's disciple, forged an unrivaled friendship with him, and yet still mercilessly cut him down when the desire arose. He possessed some sort of superhuman ability that allowed him to destroy the mortal vessel of a mage who had been infinitely close to being a magician.
ああ、ほんとうさんくさい、めんどくさい。でも目障りだから絶対殺すし、魔法を奪ってからの仕事がまた一つ増えちゃったじゃない。バカエリ。
Toko put her glasses back on and turned on her heel. She had completed all her major tasks for the day. All that was left was to make some money to buy food for her familiar and head back to the hideout. So she's gonna go back to the pachinko parlor.
ちょ、何あの乙女軸！
Who's this? Setting aside Bayo's mental shout of dismay for a moment, it was Bayo. The scent that had been bothering him for the past few days had suddenly disappeared. His employer was back to being the old Toko Ozaki he knew, and she was headed to the entertainment district. Bayo sniffed at the air. The scent had vanished and he no longer had a reason to continue tailing Toko. But where had it gone? And where had it come from in the first place? Bayo thought about it for a few moments.
さっきの男が怪しいよね。
Bayo regained his composure and decided to follow the trail of the man's scent. He had no idea where he was going. Was his employer's worst nightmare? Okay. What is gonna happen? The church. The church was set up to accept visitors any time of day, any day of the year. The church was a savior of the lost and the poor and recently had even ventured into the wedding industry for some extra income. It was closely involved with the public welfare of Misaki City and was doing fairly well for itself in that regard. However, there was one problem.
エイリ神父はまた外出ですか。律香もサボタージュ。奉仕の生徒さんたちも日に日に減っていく一方、結局労働力は私一人だけなのですね。
Even if their financial situation was stable, they seemed to be chronically understaffed.
だいたいこの町の人々は新人が足りなさすぎます。給金がなければ働けないなど、人生を何だと思っているのでしょう。物欲だけで構成された一日を過ごしていては、懐は豊かになっても心が貧しくなるだけでしょうに。
The nun muttered to herself quietly as she picked up the stepladder with one hand. Although it was a proper stepladder they used for cleaning the church windows and weighed too much to be carried by even two strong adults, the mass didn't seem to faze her.
人々の心の荒廃も気になりますが、物価の上昇も捨ておけません。消費税なるものの導入もささやかれますし、営利神父にはもっと一日で驚異的な成果を上げる結婚式の素晴らしさを知っていただかないと。あの人は誰彼何彼気分で世話をして後のこととか考えませんから。裏庭に集まった野良猫たちはどうするんですか。ああ、私ですね。それも私が受け持つのですね。もう何でもかんでも肉体労働は私なのですね。
The nun, or this nun, mumbling to herself at near constant pace, was Sister Yuika. There was a reason for her unusual behavior. Yuika was completely blind and had honed her other senses to keenly perceive her surroundings. She was extremely sensitive to the presence of living creatures, particularly humans, and could detect when someone was within a radius of 30 feet. The reason why she was talking to herself so openly now was because she did not sense anyone was near.
今日の余り物はと。ああ、もらい物でジャムの詰め合わせがありましたね。どうなのでしょう、主よ。猫って2日経った岩のように硬いパンでもペーストすればいける口なんでしょうか。玉ねぎだけは出すなとリツカが言っていた気がしますが。
Sister Yuika was busy putting away the cleaning tools while simultaneously trying to prepare dinner for the hungry animals mewing in the back garden. Mewing? When suddenly...
おや？新しい迷子ですか？
Sister Yuika suddenly sensed the presence of a small dog in the church. Oh, because Beo is there.
ごめんなさい。今日は猫限定の日なの。君が混ざってしまったら猫どもが驚くわ。餌ならここで恵んであげますから、中に入るのはまた今度にしてくださいね。それ以上入ったら、向かいの家の屋根あたりまでご退場願いますよ。
She put her foot in front of the small brown dog to stop him from coming any further inside the church's gate. Oh, it's not Beo. Okay, I thought she sensed Beo. It was actually a dog there. Yuika was somewhat rougher in her treatment of non-human creatures.
何この神気臭い生き物。
This is inside her brain. Beo would convince himself to transform into a small dog instead of a wolf, like he really wanted, only saw Sister Yuika as an obstacle in his way. Also, it is actually Beo, okay. He could smell the scent of the man in black ahead further inside. So, okay, Beo can transform to a smaller dog. I guess he could transform. I mean, he could transform to a human, right? So he could transform into a much more smaller dog or his normal form, the bigger wolf, right? Beo thought little of humans, and in the moment, Sister Yuika was simply an obstacle. So naturally, he ignored her warnings and attempted to push through the gate.
なんでしょう、この色。この子、すごい色していますけど、もしかして高級な品種なのでしょうか。だとしたら。
He might be some wealthy person's pet. Since the dog came to the church, its rich owner might also attend the church services. Yuika stopped trying to push the dog away from the gate.
ごめんなさいね。エイリ神父が目当てなんでしょうけど、また出かけてしまったの。今日一番の餌をあげますから、おとなしく帰ってくださいませ。
ああ、もう邪魔、この神気臭い人。よし、周りに誰もいないし、首を噛み折ろ。
Beo's front legs stopped suddenly before he could launch himself at Sister Yuika. Pop! As Sister Yuika opened the lid of the bottle she held and poured out a glimmering liquid into a small dish. She set it down in front of the dog.
ほら、お食べ。
The mysterious unknown liquid sat in front of Beo. It smelled like nothing he'd ever smelled before. Beo was known to let curiosity get the best of him. Even if it was poisoned, no poison of the natural world would or could actually harm him. He lapped up a mouthful.
何？
He lapped up a little more.
この
Was it like milk? He lapped up a little bit more.
味。
He lapped up more and more.
おや、牛乳を飲むような舐めっぷり。犬ながら惚れ惚れします。
Okay, it was milk.
これもっと欲しい。
The church became filled with the echoes of Beo's boisterous barking. At this point, he had completely forgotten about the man's scent.
甘いですか？私も感動しました。犬どもにも甘味をたしなむ心があるのですね。
甘い？これが甘いってこと？
Beo looked up at Sister Yuika as she whispered to him. He had the feeling that sweet as important word as he should remember. This food sent a sensation though through him that was like a flash of lightning. Until this point, eating food that had been nothing more than a process of refueling. He liked the hamburgers, but that never amounted to more than a preference for a particular mouthfeel. He only ate because he needed the nutrition. But this was different. The food was not necessary to his survival. And yet he knew he wanted more. He didn't really need it, but it made him feel good. It was like a food for his soul rather than for his body.
あれ、そもそもこの匂いって。
He stopped wagging his tail. The golden wolf in the form of a small dog sat with the food that was the very origin and name of him. Beowulf was faced with a difficult problem he was unable to solve. We're back. We're going back.
ただいま。
はい。おかえりなさい、ベオくん。
She's angry. She's like, where were you?
遅いお帰りにお姉さん心配しちゃった。こんな時間まで無断外出とか心配したぞ。教育係兼飼い主としてバッボーイしなくちゃいけないから、そこに正座。
Beo had transformed back into human form and returned to the workshop.
あ、そうか。
Beo knew he had messed up. He had failed to get back home before Tsoko because of Sister Yuika.
正座は嫌です。そりゃ無断で外に出てたけど、誰にも見つかってないし、別に僕悪いことしてないし。
誰にも見つかっていない？ってことはベオくん、裏山で遊んでたの？
裏山じゃなくて町。気づかなかったでしょ。実はトウコさんを尾行していただけなのです。
Tsoko froze at Beo's completely unexpected response. But she was used to him by now. She just sighed and rubbed her head now, throbbing from a terrible headache.
いいでしょう。見つからなければいたずらじゃないと教えたのは私だしね。主人の尾行禁止とは命令していなかったし。今回の尾行については不問に付します。でもどうやって人目を避けたの？その格好だったらさすがに気づくと思うんだけど、私。
そこは企業秘密です。教えたら今日みたいなトウコさんもう見れなくなっちゃうし。
Toko's response was both honest and out of character. Even Beo was surprised at how taken aback she was by his statement.
それは違う。どんな勘違いをしたのか知らないけど、あれはただの交渉よ。教会の神父相手に町を人質に見立てて不干渉を念押ししただけで。
いや、楽しそうに見えたのは女の人の方だけど。あの全身ぐるぐる巻きに自分を縛ってた方。
Woman and wolf stared at each other for a silent moment. Bayo looked satisfied in himself and his secret information.
つまりあれって瞳子さんのつがい？
Toko nearly choked at the utterly fearless question. The puppet master wordlessly removed her glasses and tamped down her emotions.
なんでそんな言葉だけ知ってるんだお前は。耳戸島にも程があるぞ。
こんなの生き物として普通の言葉じゃない。まあ瞳子さんが普通の生き物だとは思っていなかったから僕としても意外だけど。それでどうなの？あのパッとしないポテトみたいなオス何？
Potato-looking guy. Bayo was suddenly irritated. He was irritated, but he couldn't figure out why.
何も何もお前の言う通りしなびたフライドポテトだよ。少なくとも私にとってはね。気にする価値もないし食べたくなるような魅力もない。
本当？ただの敵？瞳子さんにとって特別なのは僕だけ？
ああ、今のところはね。焼けぼっくいに火がつくかとも思ったが完全にしけっていた。あれを前にしてどうこう思うのはもう二度とないだろうさ。
そっか、なんでもないならもう忘れることにします。でも焼けぼっくいって何？
思い出を蒸し返して前後不覚に陥ること。まあその可能性だって少しはあったと思うよ。あんなんでも私の初恋の相手のようだし。
え
Bayo had no first-hand experience with love, but he at least understood the concept of a first love.
初恋って瞳子さんに？
つがいはありで初恋はなしとか、どれだけ私を動物的に見ているんだお前は。昔の話だよ。私が10代になったばかりで、あれが祖父の弟子だった頃の話だ。奴は魔術ではなく精神修行の一環として祖父と付き合っていたが。
So Father Airy was Toko's first love? Okay. Father Airy. Toko spoke indifferently, and it was clear from the look on her face that there was no longer any attachment there. Yet there was still a tenderness in her words that caused Bayo to furrow his brow.
瞳子さんまだ好きなわけ？
いや、自分でも呆れるぐらい何もなかった。ただ青春の幻影というのかな。そういう頃の象徴のような知人とは話すだけで懐かしいものなんだよ。人間的には全く魅力を感じなくなったが、奴と話しているだけでこう昔の自分を思い返して笑いたくなる。
Bayo grew only more confused as Toko spoke with such passion. He couldn't wrap his head around the concept that she hated him, yet somehow also still liked him.
そういうの僕わかんないな。
お前には好き嫌いがないからね。ロジックだけじゃ人の関係は解けないよ。
そんなのあります。食べ物だって襟好みするじゃんか僕。
お前の基準は有益か無益かだけだろ。野生動物にとって味覚は十分な栄養値があるかないかを測るセンサーでしかない。栄養値を度外視して食事をとるのは人間だけだ。自分の体に合っているからその食材を好むではないんだよ。人は楽しいか楽しくないかで食事をとる。
甘いもの好きなものって甘く見えるの？
ものの例えだが苦くは見えないだろ。まあ人によってはそれもありだが、そのあたりはあれだな、性癖の問題だ。卵が先か鶏が先かの話さ。好きだから甘いのか、甘いから好きなのかとね。
でも僕、瞳子さんは甘く見えないけど。
そりゃそうだろう。そもそもお前はまだ生きていないからな。
You're not actually alive.
あるだけのものと生きていることはまた別の話だ。
I mean, it's kinda harsh to say.
皮肉な話だがね。その違いを知ったとき、お前は無敵ではなくなるよ、ベオ。さあ、夕食だ。今日も大勝ちしたからな。霜降りのいいところを買ってきたぞ。
Toko walked into the classroom back in her usual mood. Bayo lingered in the hallway, looking dejected. You're not actually alive. Those words pierced right through Bayo's heart, but he didn't quite know why yet. Yeah, that was quite harsh for Toko to say. 3 weeks would pass before he got a hint of why that was the case. Lou Beowulf was perfect, and yet he would lose at the hands of a particularly imperfect creature named Sojiro Shizuki. So do we move forward? Like aftermath of what happened there? The sound of a phone ringing echoed through the empty hallways of the school. It was January, and both the mage who had remodeled the building and the magician who had expelled her from it were long gone. The telephone that Toko had installed on a whim rang and rang without letting up, as if he knew for sure that someone was there to answer it.
もううるさいな。
Why, he's still here? I mean, I guess he's still here. Remember when at the ending of the main game, I think Beowulf was there with Alco in the mansion, if I'm correct. It kind of looked like that because they mentioned the golden wolf, golden something. Something rustled inside, so he didn't go with Toko anymore. Toko left him here. There were definitely no people inside a school building, but there was one non-human creature sleeping there.
はい、こちら伽藍の道第二出張店。天使は尻尾巻いて逃げ出した後ですので、ご用のある方は発信音の後にメッセージを。瞳子さん？
What is her?
うん。はいはい。どうぞ行ってらっしゃい。僕のことはお構いなく。
Okay, she's still calling him. And him saying that the owner has run away with her tail between her legs. Okay. The classroom was occupied by a young boy with a blonde hair. Look at that face. Even before the phone rang, he was in human form. It used to be that when he was alone, he would always doze off in his wolf form, but not anymore. There was no real need for him to stay in this form, but he did anyway. It was now his normal state when he was not in combat.
じゃ、必要になったら呼んでよね。契約は切れたけど、僕はまだ瞳子さんの使い魔だし。うん、そう。嫌味なんかじゃないって。狼はね、誇り高いんだよ。瞳子さん以上の雇い主が見つかるまで、首輪はそっちに預けておきます。
Bea couldn't help but wonder where Toko was traveling. She had accepted her loss and ended her contract with her familiar. She said it was because she hadn't fulfilled her promise to let him fight magic. However, that was actually the fault of her familiar and not her responsibility at all. Beo had not fulfilled his duty as her bodyguard yet.
で、瞳子さんは今どこ？
It was the name of a country he wasn't familiar with. After the battle, she had promptly left Japan to develop a way back to break a curse.
何が敗北を認めただよ。それって、まだ諦めてないってことじゃん。
Toko laughed on the other end of the line. Somehow Bayo sensed a tropical scent coming through the phone. Whether that was a mystical effect of Toko's handcrafted phone or the werewolf's super senses was unclear.
じゃあ、さっさと帰ってきてね。僕はこっちに残ってるから。美味しいお土産よろしく。
Toko asked him anyway. If he had really decided to stay on her as her familiar, there was no reason for him to stay there.
実は僕もよくわかんない。だけど
As he stumbled over his words, Bayo patted his chest a few times and remembered the pain he had felt.
まあ、なんと言いましょうか。ここにいれば、甘いってどんなものか、わかるような気がするのです。
The wolf, who had learned to accept being wasteful, expressed his future goal in a happy voice. Thus concluded an exceptionally rare case of first love, sweet of honey. That's it. I mean, I guess it was fun though, yeah. Just seeing what they were doing, both of them, before they met up or clashed with Aoko and Alice. So that was nice. And a little bit of the aftermath as well on what happened with Bayo right here. As Toko left the country, Bayo was still here in Misaki. Also, we got another. What is this? Anyone can sleep but not laugh. Okay, we got more? Okay. So yeah, let's do this one first. The Wonderful World of Ploys, number 4. Bittersweet Magecraft. So we have one more extra stuff. Okay, we can relax now. Bittersweet Magecraft with Alice.
今日もワンは働いているすかシャバゾウ。これで鳥の餌を1ダースくれ。冷えか麦の一番いいところを頼む。
Dude, that's Kinomi and the money right there. What is that? 100 billion yen?
いらっしゃいませ。昼間から買い物なんていい身分ね、ロビン。
アリスさん、なんで店員とかしてるっす？シャバゾウはどこ行ったっすか？
鳥頭のくせに細かいことを気にするのね。今日は私が店番をしているの。何か意見があって？
いや、ないっすけど。あ、ピンときたっすよ。さてはアリスさん、シャバゾウと一緒にアルバイトとかスイーツなこ。
なぜなにプロイ。
Number 4.
今回は比較的安全なプロイキッシャーの紹介よ。さあロビン、好きなものを選びなさい。
ケーキショップかと思ったらプロイキッシャーを売ってる闇市場だった。三崎町はほんと地獄っすね。じゃあ右端から順に行くっすか。この宝石箱っぽいやつは何すか？
Look at that eyeball right there. What is that?
それは6ペンスの歌。ジャック・イン・ザ・ボックス、シックス・スウィング・チョコレートよ。地味に見えるけど役に立つプロイね。どこかの誰かさんとは大違い。
Contains 24 familiars. As a ploy kick show, no stronger than normal familiars. It can be even destroyed with firearms. Okay.
当たり前っす。鳥はすべて有能かつエレガントな使いますから。かくいう自分も6ペンスの歌なら知ってるっすよ。鳥つながりで。6ペンスの歌を歌うっす。ポケットにはいっぱいのライ麦っす。24羽の黒ムクドリ、パイの中に焼き込まれた。もうなぜ意味もなく鳥を虐殺するのかわかんないっす。 西欧圏の人間どもは鳥を何だと思っていたのか。
その後はお金の勘定をする王様、こっそり蜂蜜かけたパンを食べる王妃といった歌詞が続くわね。2番目以降は当時の政治を風刺した歌なんじゃないかしら。
いや、端的に久遠寺邸の日々を表しているっす。金勘定するのが王じゃなくて女王な青セーターで、こっそり贅沢をするのが王妃じゃなくてアリ。
さよならロビン。
Bye bye.
次は何？
The one with the tail, what is that? Or the eye?
生きてるとか愛してるとかそういうセリフはないっすか？ないっすね。でも自分的にはノープロ。アリスさんの虐待もラブの方。ん
Why are you laughing?
なんすかこれ、超ウケる。このでっぷりしたやつ超ブサイクなんですけど、生きてるのが恥ずかしくなるレベルっす。
It is actually a face though, yeah. You look at the eyes, it's pretty much like a helmet. Yeah.
あなたよ。
That's you.
あなたよ。
だからそれがあなたの本体。ロストロビンロンドとタグには書かれているけど、あなたにはもったいない名称ね。
まさにミケランジェロクラスの造形っす。自分店に入った時からこいつが一番高価で大人気だって気づいてたっすよ。ほんとほんと。
詳細データは必要ないわね。あなた本編で十分すぎるほど出しゃばってるから。元は葬式の歌よ。殺されたロビンをめぐってのお話。誰がという問いかけに、私がと参列者たちが答えていくの。犯人探しの歌でもあるわ。大ヒットしたマザーグースで、その後前日譚であるコック・ロビンとジェニー・レンの幸せな求婚が出版され、これまたヒット。その後コック・ロビンの死の後を歌ったスズメの裁判と処罰も出版。羨ましいわ。印税だけで大儲けね、ロビン。
The trial and execution of the sparrow for killing Cock Robin.
鳥には1円も入ってこないっすけどね。それよりアリスさん知ってるっすか？コマドリはイギリスの国鳥っすよ。クリスマスの象徴でもあるっす。つまり魔法よの主役は自分。
Before he could finish, he's gone. End already. He was gonna say, I am the hero of Mahoyo, and then gets kicked out. Oh, he came back.
あんまり調子に乗ってると大変よ。
すでにこれ以上ないほど大変っす。
あとはほとんど残り物ね。取り立てで紹介するほどのものではないわ。
アリスさんアリスさん、この3つ目のプロイなんすか？目っぽい形をしたキャンディー？
目玉よ。
Eye candy.
目玉っぽいキャンディー？
本物の目玉よ。見る？
Wait, that's her eye?
そういうわけではないのだけど、私の左目もプロイ扱いなだけよ。
アクロスティック化ってなんすか？
Scripts Humpty. Original form none.
一つの言葉にたくさんの意味を持たせることよ。 ルイス・キャロルが提示したカバンごと同じね。鏡の国でアリスはハンプティにこう質問したの。シナヌルストーブってどういう意味？ハンプティは答えたわ。それはな、しなやかでぬるやかという意味だ。分かって。要は異なる2つの意味を新しい言葉として生み出すルール変更。それが魔眼のアクロ化よ。別にハンプティがモデルというわけではないのだけど、彼女はハンプティにちなんだ名前をつけたのね。
ただの思いつきなんすけど、初回限定版と通常版をくっつけるとどうなるっすか？
そうね。その2つを合わせた場合、初回特典付きのアイテムが永遠に市場に残り続けるでしょう。
その場合、新しい言葉は初回限定普及版っすね。
違うわ。ワゴン行きよ。
We apologize for any inappropriate remarks.
コホン。このように使いどころが難しいプロイなの。
次は
A flan.
これっすか。こいつについては番外編で語るんでパスっすね。次はなんすかこれ。
What is that? What do you call it again? Snowflake?
ただの失敗品よ。私の最初のプロイ。使い道はないのだけど記念として飾っているの。この通り魔術戦には使えないわ。形も良くないから見せるものでもないのだけど、こういうのは思い出だから。
So it would snow for a couple minutes. That's it.
ブローチの形をした砂糖細工なんすね。うわ、雨。アリスさんの手作りキャンディー、雨。
A fridge now fell on him.
そろそろ就業時間ね。私は先に帰っているから後片付けをやっておいて。
It is over. This world of Ploys, man. Sponsor, Tokitsu Baking Company. Okay. We don't have anything. We have this though for next time. Okay, so we have one more. And yeah, this one was pretty enjoyable. Showed us more of the different characters. So let's see what this one does in the next one. So I'll just see you then, guys. Bye-bye.